Who's number one? The science of rating and ranking. These two wrote this. They both earned PhDs in mathematics. Both, Myers retired. Langville's still professor of mathematics. And rating and ranking. That's two different things. There's different ways to go about this. I use this in my human resource management work. Of course, there's ELO system, which is used in chess. Google uses this in their ranking. Changes, of course, over time, varying degrees, this and that. Well, anyway, I'm working on my memoir, and I've actually been working on this on and off for years. My 12 most influential teachers. Now, because I mentioned these 12, I do not mean to say I only had 12 influential teachers or 12 good teachers. If any of them are still living and they think they were a good teacher and should have influenced me, well, maybe so. Start here with Coach Ray Ellis, who I've mentioned in an earlier video. Old man here, Coach Ray Ellis. Coach Ellis. Tough guy. That was me back in the late 60s. And a bunch of most of them were pals, and most of them were really good guys. So, Coach Ellis. I'm going to mention two things I learned from him. On the coach of the track team, and I was on the track team, and I ran the 100-yard dash. Usually I was in a race, I would come in third, sometimes fourth, but there were individual races I'd come in first or second. These are among the four fastest sprinters on our track team. Well, he said a sprint, or you yourself, you just have to stay in your lane. That's an individual sport. But a relay race is a team sport, like a basketball game. The NCAA basketball tournament starts this week, and there's going to be some team lower ranked defeat a team of higher rank, where people are saying, okay, these guys are going to NBA, they shouldn't have lost to this other team. Well, none of these players are going to NBA. Well, it's a team sport. That's why Ellis really had us work on relay, on handoffs, on the relays. And I was always taken with that. He also said we should not just think about running track, apply what you learn here to other things in your life and for the rest of your life. And I did. He's right. When I was doing evaluations, sometimes being good individually at what they were doing, an employee was doing, is different than how they were doing as a member of a team. Next, Isalou Fisher. Now, what Isalou she had a master's degree, taught music, and she was an excellent musician and an excellent music teacher. Darlene Criss also was a teacher, also had a master's degree. She taught a course called Creativity. Now, Darlene and Isalou were my friends. My wife and I actually joined with them for a couple decades for monthly dinners. We met at Mensa. They welcomed me my first Mensa meeting that I attended in 1977. And they taught me how to herd the cats, so to speak, in Mensa. Later, when I became a local national officer. Can't find pictures of them. Let's see. I may have one. Yeah. This is Darlene. Darlene Criss right there. Robert Beatty. Darlene Criss. This was in the Wichita Eagle, Thursday, September 14th, 1995. There's me. I'm holding a book by Porter, Trusted Numbers. I'll talk about that later in a different video. These were all good people. We had a lot of fun. Okay, next, Gwen Welshimer. I learned a lot from Gwen. She was elected official at various levels. Here we are on the floor of the Kansas House of Representatives, 1992. I spent time on the, I was an employee. I was working, they wanted me to, I would write drafts of laws and regulations, so forth. Liked that job a lot and learned a lot about political management, quantitative political management, how laws are really written in political machinations. I'm embarrassed I don't have a picture with Archibald Froman. He was my partner, first partner, assigned to learn from Arch on the fire department. He was an old smoke eater. Started working when it was pretty rare to put on an air pack. There might just be one to a station. I think he started, they didn't have any. Great guy. I know people are, he was old, he had old attitudes. I mean, now I'm old, but he was old when I was young, so. Died years ago, good man. My Aunt Verna Carter. Well, let's see, got a picture of her. She owned bookstores, taught me a lot about reading and writing. Wanted me to take over, manage a bookstore, at least one of them. I wanted to go in a different direction. That would have been a fine life if I had done that. Curtis LaPorte Jr. He was my 6th grade teacher. Now the thing about that, I kept taking him on and off the list because I had a hard time pointing to any one thing, and that's, I think, the point. I couldn't make, every time I made this list, he's on the list because he had an overall influence on me. 6th grade teacher, talked a lot about the rest of our lives, not just what we needed to learn in the 6th grade, but keep learning. Apply what you learn in life. Bruce Cowdrey, talked about him elsewhere. 9th grade English teacher, taught me a lot about writing. He said one of the great flaws in our educational system with respect to English courses and writing, you're only writing for one person all the way through school. You're a teacher. Each year, you're a teacher. All the way through college, you're a teacher. Maybe a panel of teachers. He said, you have to. He made me. So you have to write for others. Put me on school paper. I didn't want to be on school paper. Put me on school paper so I could write for classmates. So I'd hear feedback from my classmates and not just from him. And then I wrote for the Teen Talk for the Wichita Beacon and heard from people, and I wrote for a national youth magazine. And then I later dedicated one of my books to him. Dr. Billings, anthropology professor. Wow, she was really influential. It's hard to... It's my 40th birthday party. That is Dr. Dorothy Billings. And she's doing a Polynesian dance of prosperity, I think she called it. Anyway, wishing me well. And gave me some kind of card. And so, because she can dance Polynesian dance, that's not why she's one of my most influential teachers. She said in every culture, conformity is the most powerful force because of its flip side, ridicule. If you can't stand to be ridiculed by your culture, subculture, you'll conform even if you disagree. That explains a lot, both about what they sell on television commercials, which are mostly about conformity of appearance, but why people go along with dumb decisions. We're seeing that at the national level. So now I keep putting Charles Jenkins first as my most influential teacher, but here I've got him third. I'll come back to him. Buckminster Fuller and my dad. I'm going to tell about the main thing, lots I could talk about my dad, but I was 3 years old and he said I need to learn how to read. But it wasn't just one person. It wasn't just my mom, wasn't just my aunt. He talked to family, friends, and neighbors. He made it a community project that I learned how to read. I need to tell my son about this. I don't know if I have. It was a good thing. I mean, people were always bringing me things to read, comic books. I'm 3, almost 4. And I learned to read. And so by the time I'm 4, I remember somebody from my dad's business came over and I was sitting there reading a magazine, an adult magazine. I think it was U.S. News and World Report. And the guy said, is he looking at pictures or what? No, he can read. Now, I didn't know what all the words meant. I continue to have to learn that. I still encounter words. I don't know what they mean. I got to look them up. And in college, I took courses in Greek and Latin, roots, so that a lot of our roots, word roots. Anyway, he had a magazine with him, this other guy. He said, oh, you here, read this. So I just started read aloud. So I just started reading aloud, and he was shocked. It's all, you should be able to learn to read pretty young. Okay, so then Buckminster Fuller. Let's see here. September 1976. There's a whole story here. I'm pleased to inform you that Buckminster Fuller has accepted you as a student. Bucky wanted me to become what he was, a comprehensive anticipatory design scientist. Don't know that I succeeded, but I've had some success in life. Now there's me and my dad. 2009, Dad died just a few months after this. None of us knew how sick he was. He didn't know how sick he was. All right, Mr. Jenkins. First met him in he was a sponsor of the Student Coalition, Problem Solving Coalition. There's me, back of my head. This is from the school yearbook. And that's me. So now both of these were known as Brother Jenkins when I was in high school, early 70s. Mr. Charlie Jenkins are both listed in social studies. In fact, Bill Jenkins may have taught government too, but Charlie Jenkins, Mr. Jenkins, Brother Jenkins, was my government teacher. And I talked in other videos about becoming interested in medicine. I was already interested in medicine, but I had decided to go into government. I was going to get a degree in public administration. Things didn't work out that way, but that book I showed earlier, Trust in Numbers, what I was most taken with in that book is about chapter about quantitative public management, which I first learned about in my high school government class from Mr. Charles Jenkins. And I'll talk about that in a completely separate video or two. So that's the 12, my most 12 influential teachers. From my dad teaching me to read and organizing a whole bunch of people to help teach me read. Buckminster Fuller, Charles Jenkins, Dorothy, Billings, Bruce Cowdrey, Curtis LaPorte, Verna Carter, Archibald, Froman, Gwen Welshimer, Darlene, Criss, Fisher, and Coach Ray Ellis.